Hey there, it's the worst Pokemon trainer, and I'm back with another trophy review, this time for I Am Setsuna. I Am Setsuna is a RPG developed by Tokyo RPG Factory and published by Square Enix. It came out in 2016. It is a game where it is set in a snowbound world plagued by monsters, and you play as a silent protagonist called Ender. He becomes a guardian for Setsuna, who is a young woman destined to be a sacrifice in order to save the world from the monsters. It is an RPG that takes a lot of elements from games like Chrono Trigger, so if you really like Chrono Trigger, you'll feel right at home here. Again, it is a snow landscape based game, so you're not seeing much variety in terms of landscapes. You're only going to see snow. There's no desert, there's no beach. Well, there is kind of like beach areas, but it's all covered in snow. So just keep that in mind. And honestly, I really love the music. The whole piano theme, very good. I really enjoyed that part of the game. But we're here to answer the question, how difficult is it to get the Platinum Trophy in I Am Setsuna? So, there's 50 trophies on this list. Thankfully, it's not too bad. So, at the beginning, you're just going to play until you reach the final boss. At the end of the final dungeon, there's going to be a message that says there's no turning back at this point. And that's the point where you want to stop, because you're going to have to grind all the other trophies that are missable, because if not, you're going to have to play through the game all over again. So after that, you're going to have to do some sub-story cleanups for each character, and you are also going to have to start grinding levels, because these sub-stories are pretty difficult if you're not high enough. Thankfully, where I'm playing right now, right here, is a great place to farm for levels if you need to. You also got some other miscellaneous trophies like dealing 1000 damage in one hit, defeat 10 enemies with overkill, defeat 10 enemies with exact kill, eat certain foods that require you to get recipes throughout the game, and a weird one is use a mega elixir, which is surprisingly really easy. But those are the easy stuff. The challenging stuff here is actually defeating the secret boss, which can be a pain because you have to go through a gauntlet of bosses to get to it. And if you can't leave the dungeon, if you do, you have to start from the very beginning and beat them all over again. And if you die, same thing. The other challenging and grinding stuff is momentum and fluxation. The game doesn't really describe momentum or the fluxation system. If there was a tutorial for it, I must have missed it because I don't remember the game really telling me any of it. So, momentum mode occurs when you have at least one SP point available, and then when you use an attack or a spell, you press square when your character flashes. You need to do this momentum mode at least 30 times while doing a combo. Combos are triggered when two characters with compatible abilities have a full meter, and then you can select that combo. You have to use momentum mode 10 times in one battle. This one's pretty easy. You just have to find a weak enemy and use non-damaging abilities on it, and use momentum mode 100 times. So, as you've been watching, I've been triggering momentum mode almost every time the character flashes. You see an extra bit of dialogue, and that's momentum mode triggering. Thankfully, momentum mode isn't that hard to activate, and the trophies aren't that hard to grind once you understand how to pull off the mechanic. The problem is the game, like I said, didn't really explain this to me, or I was just not paying attention. So these trophies I pretty much had to get to at the very end of the game. So I'm telling you guys, if earlier you can do it, the more time you'll save for yourself. But next is Fluxation. Fluxation occurs when triggering momentum mode at the use of text. There's a small chance that Spiritite actually gets a permanent boost. Those boosts, as well as the chance Fluxation happens, depends on your equipped talisman. Basically, you need to use momentum mode to possibly trigger Fluxation, and talismans help boost these odds. Again, the game doesn't really explain these, so again, I was left at the very end of the game grinding for these trophies. So, you need to do 10 Fluxations for each Spiritite, which are command and support. You also need to activate Fluxation 4 times in one battle. Again, similar to an earlier trophy, just find a weak enemy and use abilities that don't do damage. You also need to do a total of 200 Fluxations. Make sure to constantly switch out abilities once you get a few Fluxations. PSN Profile has a great guide on how to easily grind these trophies, so make sure to check out their guide. You also need to master Spirit Knight, and this one's a little confusing. You need to get one of your abilities, Spirit Knight, with 10 Fluxations. However, you can't simply just get 10 with one talisman. You need to keep switching talismans that have a Fluxation chance. You can probably use or do this with 3 talismans. You use 2 talismans to get 4 Fluxations each, and a third talisman to get 2 more. So you can actually see at the beginning of the video, right after I beat a bunch of enemies, where a window pops up. It shows one of my abilities and a bunch of stars. That is what you're looking to get. You're looking to get 10 of those stars on one of your abilities to get that trophy. Again, it is really annoying because the mechanics aren't really explained at all in game, and the only way to really kind of understand them is through a trophy guide. So don't be afraid to use the trophy guides. They're very helpful and do a really good job explaining this stuff. A couple of other tips I recommend is finding this guy right here that I'm speaking to right now. He's the only guy that you can sell your drops to. For whatever reason, there's no other characters that don't accept your stuff. Only these guys that sell you the Spirit Knights only take your stuff, and they are the only ones that will give you money. There's no money drops in this game. Enemies only drop material, and you can use that material to sell it and make money in order to buy weapons or get new abilities. So just keep that in mind. So with that being said, the only thing really left is the final boss. There's a trophy that requires you to beat the final boss without destroying any of the pillars around it. There are 4 pillars before the fight, and destroying even one will void the trophy. So keep that in mind. Just go into the boss without destroying those pillars. It will be more challenging, so make sure to grind up, be a high level, use your best characters with the best abilities and combos. There's another trophy to keep an eye out at the end, where you have to listen to the youth after the big final boss. You're faced with another enemy who talks throughout the fight. Make sure to not attack at all until the boss says, "Stop me." That specific phrase needs to appear, otherwise you won't get this trophy and you're gonna have to play through the game again, or reload your save if you still have it. So that should cover all the trophies. It's not too bad, thankfully. We'll check the trophy list out in a second. I thought it was a solid game, even though it took me a long time to complete. And you'll see it in the trophy list that I have a big discrepancy between trophies, just because I kept putting this game on hold for whatever reason, and I kept having to reset every time I came back. Because another big thing this game doesn't have is a map of the world. So if you're not paying attention, it's easy to get lost. Another complaint, or issue I should say, is that making money isn't exactly clear when you first start. Enemies drop ingredients that you have to sell at one specific vendor. That vendor also gives you abilities that you can give to each of your character. So again, something that isn't really explained well, and like I said, as well, the other mechanics like Fluxation and the other one escapes my mind, but those two mechanics again aren't explained well either. So that's really my only gripes with the game. It's a short RPG, thankfully, so compared to other stuff like Final Fantasy game, you'll definitely spend way less time here, which is great. So as you can see, very high completion rating, not too bad, very short game compared to other RPGs. Again, the only two major issues with this list will be the whole mechanics for momentum and fluxation, as like I said, they weren't really properly explained in the game. And maybe the secret boss might be another tough one, just because you have to go through a gauntlet of bosses to get to that one. So all you really got to do is get a high enough level. That area where I was playing at the beginning of the video is a great farming spot. Just mix and match combos and abilities and you should be fine. Other than that, final boss might be a little bit challenging too, because you don't debuff them with the pillars. You have to keep the pillars alive before you fight them, so just keep that in mind as well. But pretty good game. I really enjoyed the music. I like the winter aesthetic. Not for everyone, but it was a very cool game. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys go for this one because it's a solid one to add to your collection. But that's gonna be it for me for today. Next time we'll be taking a look at, I believe, Guardians of the Galaxy. Have yourselves an awesome night and take care, guys. Peace.